Right, I think we should move on to the next question. We've spent a lot of time on multi-site. So the next question we had through was, I am looking for a developer to build me a WordPress site based on some designs that I have created. Have you any advice on where to find one and how to judge if they are reliable? And I must admit, this is a question I get a lot of people. I hear a lot from people that, or a lot of clients that come to us, and it's like, I've had this developer and they've disappeared or they're unreliable and things, and they're obviously worried about hiring someone new and whether they're going to get the same sorts of things. So I guess there's two parts to that question. It's like, how do I actually find developers? And how then the second part is, how do I select one once I've found someone and make sure that they're any good, of course. So any options for finding developers? Where do we find developers? Obviously not sat here, obviously.
Yeah. I've got one. Your network, ask people you know for recommendations.
Yep.
If you know someone had a website built recently, ask them, did it go well? Was it a good experience? Would they recommend their developer?
Word of mouth is always the most
Yeah,
powerful one.
strongest kind of recommendation, and
I think that's for anything, though, isn't it? Just like whatever it is, installing bathrooms or building something or whatever. Word of mouth.
You probably check out your competitors and see if their sites have got kind of a little tag at the bottom that says who it was made by. And,
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I guess finding sites that you like, and like, do they are they at the bottom? That's quite finding them.
I mean, there are a lot of websites out there like People Per Hour, Elancer, things like that. The problem, I never ever recommend that anybody would go and look through those for a starting point, because often they are people who are starting out. Not particularly skilled, don't yet have a network of their own, that work comes to them. Not always. I have met some interesting people through that, but generally,
I think if we come back to the question, then the question was, I've designed this site. So, is that the right sort of developer to work with to build this entire project? I'm not sure. Like I said, there's probably really good people out there. Don't get me wrong.
There's a lot of really experienced people on platforms like Odesk as well. I think it's really hit and miss. That kind of experience.
And I think the second part of the question, in terms of how, once you've found some names, how you validate them is really important for...
We'll come to that in a minute.
Yes, I know.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Any other how to find a developer? I've got one, and that's kind of the local WordPress meetups that take place. There's loads of them around the country. We're currently sat in the Italian Dolomites. You probably can't see the views out. It's snowing outside. I don't know whether there is one around here. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yes, there is.
Is there?
Yes, there is one in Bolzano.
Amazing.
I think. Yeah. I know. I thought about going, but then I was like, I don't speak Italian. It might be a bit weird.
That's true. So your local meetups, they tend to have lots of developer people and designers and even like people who want stuff doing as well. So
it's true.
Really good place to meet people, particularly people that you might want to help develop your site, and you can get a chance to sit and chat with them.
I mean, I run the Bristol meetup, and I get a lot of people contact me through that, saying, "Hey, can you give recommendations?"
I was going to say, meetup organisers are the people you want to contact because they know everybody.
But I think the other key thing is, like, I get a lot of people who need it immediately. They need to find someone now, and it's like, you're never going to find the best people if you're in a hurry. It's never going to work. You've got to plan ahead and think ahead. And I mean, in this particular question, this is saying I've already done the designs. I mean, generally, I think you should be trying to find a developer before you've done the designs, so that your developer can be involved.
At least they can give their input then, can't they, on things that might take longer or shorter or that sort of thing on the designs. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's got to be collaboration.
Yeah.
And so timing is everything.
Absolutely.
I think.
So it probably was worth saying, like, how do people find the WordPress meetups? So they're all on meetup.com, I believe, aren't they? All the sort of official ones. There are a few that aren't, I think, as well, that are perhaps unofficial ones.
Even if you just type in WordPress into meetup.com.
Yeah, I think you get a lot of them in your area. But then I suppose slightly outside of the WordPress space, there's stuff like what you run, isn't it, Jonathan, that actually helps with that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so that's just a generic digital kind of community.
Yeah, so is it digital people in Peterborough, I think it is, yeah.
And it's,
stuff like that.
we cover everything, so it's kind of, it's not specific to developers or designers. It could be kind of content creators or small business owners, everyone really. So
it's a good place to kind of meet other like-minded people, or even if not developers, but I'm sure there are those there, aren't there? So,
absolutely.
yeah.
One thing I would definitely advise that nobody does is go on LinkedIn and go, ooh, does anybody know a developer? Because I did this looking for a marketing person, and it was horrendous. I got completely slammed by people I didn't know, irrelevant people, and I'm just completely overwhelmed by the response, and it was really bad.
Same with Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to suggest do look on LinkedIn, but not ask for recommendations.
Yes.
So use the search, see what developers are in your area. Might be a freelancer, might be an agency, but at least then you can start to kind of be a bit more aware of who's in the area.
I think that's a good point. Or use LinkedIn, or maybe direct message, or reach out to someone individually in a private message and say, hey, could you help me, give me some recommendations? That's a really good point.
We probably haven't spoken about the most obvious way to find somebody, and that's Google. And that's where we get a lot of our inquiries through. It's just Google searches, and in our case, people searching for WordPress developers. You know, you're going to find a lot, and you're going to have to do your homework on them.
Which is a beautiful segue into our next section
Yeah,
of questions,
yeah.
which is how to select a good developer. So you found someone at Meetup, you found someone at one of these things, or you found them at Google, and you've got a list. I've got 10. How do you pick the best one on that list, and how do you select to say that this is the person I want to work with?
It's really hard.
It is really hard. But anyone, any suggestions?
Could you start off with maybe just a small project, just to kind of
that's a really good idea.
If they work to kind of how you expect, or even just if you're a good fit for them, kind of thing. So in this kind of a two-way.
So I guess in this question then, which asked specifically, I've got all these designs. I wonder how you could split that up. So maybe you could say, well, actually, in the meantime, while we're building this project, let's do a landing page. And you as the designer could say, I'm going to design a landing page, maybe take 2 or 3 hours to design one using the design you've already got. And then you could say to the developer, look, let's just work on this particular page. It doesn't have to even do WordPress at that point, could it? It could just be like a static HTML file, and you could test the relationship with the developer. So that's one way of doing it. So
that's a key word, is relationship. It's not always about the technical skills. It's about the ability for that person to communicate. So I think one really strong piece of advice I would give is, when you start liaising with a developer for the first time, how many questions are they asking you? How much are they trying to understand your business? Because if they're not asking any questions,
that's a good point.
That's a warning bell. Yeah.
We ask a lot of questions. Maybe too many questions.
No, I don't think it's too
but
many.
We want to know as much as you can, don't you? Because you want to provide the best solution to what they're actually looking at. You can't do that without knowing the answer to the questions. They've got all this information in their head, like I'm sure the designer who's designed these sites have, about what they think their website's going to be. And we might be sat here thinking, well, we're thinking completely opposite. We need to be able to bring that together on the same page, don't we?
I think if you send someone some designs, like some mock-ups, and they come back to you with the price, just remove them from
that's a good point.
Basically, because they haven't done their due diligence and they haven't put any serious thought into it.
Because even the best designer in the world, who maybe sends you a set of beautifully designed sketch files with a style sheet and everything, you're still going to have questions. Because
you can't see a lot of functionality from those designs. You can infer it, can't you? But you might be wrong.
Sometimes
you need to check.
And sometimes things you think were working like this are actually working like this, and that's an extra cost that then the client isn't aware of. So
and there's one thing making a website look like a design. It's a very different thing making sure it's manageable, robust, fast, like all those things, accessible. Like there's a long list, and that's actually where the kind of pricing aspect becomes much more difficult, and that's a whole other topic for conversation. But
I think, like, if they don't ask, for example, I mean, I'm sure this person's provided lots of designs for the different screen sizes going down, but for example, like if the developer hasn't said, can I see the mobile versions of this site, then that's a big red flag, isn't it? Like, what do I do on mobile? And is the developer just going to make this up, or you know, are they just going to guess? And then that might be completely different to what the designer wants. So I think that's important as well.
So if your developer's not asking you questions, strike them off. That's
a
golden rule, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think we can all agree on that.
I think I'd also try, maybe this is further down the line when you've got a bit of a shorter list, but try to speak to them.
Yeah, I agree.
Like as soon as possible. in person would obviously be preferable, but even on the phone or a video call or whatever. But just test that relationship, see what their personalities are like. Is that going to be a good fit?
Is it going to work with you as a person? Yeah, because you're going to have to talk. You're going to, like you said, communication's key. You're going to have to talk to this person. You're going to have to communicate with them and so on. If you can't do that at the start, or that doesn't work between the two of you, it's not going to work later down the line, is it? When you need to.
You're so right. You've got to trust each other.
And maybe try and have a kind of communication medium that works for everyone. So you might find that email works best for you, and they want to be on the phone all the time, or maybe even messages on WhatsApp or something like that. But
so you kind of need to be compatible with the developer, basically, exactly, as a person as well as a developer and a designer, I think, as well.
You as the client might say, kind of, WhatsApp is brilliant for me. Yeah. And is the developer kind of
like not on
WhatsApp?
Never uses it. Yeah. I guess.
Are they going to kind of do whatever they can to work with you on that?
I think that's also just triggered off a load of other sort of interesting points in my head. It is a two-way street. I think a lot of people think that developers are your servants, or you pick someone who's just going to do exactly what you tell them to do, and you expect your developer to work in exactly the way that you need. And it's got to be a compromise and a two-way relationship, I think.
Absolutely.
You're a team, aren't you?
You're
a team working together to make this thing, so you need to be able to work together and compromise on things,
both sides.
For many reasons,
I've got a question that's related.
Okay.
How does a client judge the potential kind of technical expertise of a developer, and how important that might be in their project? Because there's a wide range of expertise, and for some clients they don't need top developers.
That's true.
And sometimes people end up with developers that are too far below their needs and expectations. So how do you test that? Because everyone's going to say they're experts. Everyone's going to say they're good at things in their marketing material. So,
well, I guess, can they evidence what they're saying? Have they done this before or something similar before? I mean, development is just solving problems, isn't it? Really a lot. So actually, they're not going to have done exactly the same thing before. They might have, but they're not probably going to have done exactly the same thing. But have they done something similar before that they can, show is working and actually show you? And I suppose that brings in, like, can you then contact that person who they work with and say, I'm thinking of working with this person, what they like, etc. Doing that.
Price to some degree.
Yeah.
It's not everything, but it's an indicator. It's a facet of, there's many facets to consider. But if someone's charging you £20 an hour, maybe they haven't been doing this very long, or they maybe need to build up their portfolio or something like that. But if it's £50 or £60 an hour, then you do often get what you pay for, I think, as well.
I think that's important to say. That doesn't mean say people who are charging £20 an hour are not. There are people out there that are good, and I think that's where you then need to go through the other things we've just been talking about and test the relationship, and does it feel right and so forth.
Agreed.
That sort of thing.
I suppose as well, it's the developer, or does their portfolio show lots of sites in that same kind of niche in that sector? So if you're an estate agent and they've got a load of other previous clients that are estate agents, does that show that they're kind of more experienced in that? And does that kind of lend itself to them being more suitable or not?
I think it probably does.
Yeah, probably, doesn't it? Yeah.
It might not be a technical expertise as such, but they'll probably be more aware of the terminology and expectations of what that client needs.
Yeah, it helps with communication in the relationship, doesn't it?
I think, like, looking at their websites as well, like, what do they write about? What do they, what do they put online about what they're doing and stuff? Is that stuff that's going to back up the knowledge that they've got and stuff like that? I think.
Yeah.
I think the other one, again, I know I always talk about sort of like the soft skills and stuff, but honesty. I think if you're putting a brief to someone, if someone says, I haven't done this thing before, for me that counts volumes, because then you've got some information about that.
Yeah.
And if they're not saying about all the other things, then you can probably assume that they have done those other things before and do have those skill sets. And I tend to find that people that are honest about the things they haven't done before, but said, I've done something similar, or, I know roughly how to do this, but, just be aware it might take longer, or this, that, or the other, I think is a really strong and healthy signal to have
if they're
back.
honest about the fact that they can't do X, then they're probably going to be honest about the fact that they have done X and they are going to do X and they'll do it well, aren't they?
Honesty, and it's that tie back into relationship and trust and communication and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You're not going to find a developer who has done 100% of everything you want before.
No.
I think that's a
unlikely,
really
isn't it?
unlikely thing to find.
Yeah, I guess that depends on the project, but yeah, it is unlikely, I suppose.
It's generally things.
Yeah.
I think that kind of covers that. Anything else?
I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers
Wrap
the question.
that one up.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.